everybody, welcome back to Top Words. My name is Alicia, and today we're going to talk about 10 modal verb patterns. Before we start, real quickly, you can find free PDFs to download from the link below the video. Check this link in the description to find PDFs to improve your vocabulary, phrases, questions, and more. It's free, check it out. Okay, let's go. Can, could you? Can, could you? Okay, so this first one is can you or could you, blah, blah, blah. So a lot of people ask, what's the difference between can you and could you? Which one should I use? If you're making a request, basically you can use either one. If you want to sound a little bit more polite, I would recommend you use could you. So if you're talking to your friend or your family member, you can say like, can you help me with this? Or can you help me make dinner? Or can you buy some milk at the store? Or can you please fix your hair? It looks weird. If you want to be a little bit more polite, like when you're talking to someone at work or talking to someone you don't know so well, you can use could you, blah, blah, blah. So could you please send me that file? Or could you please tell me where the restroom is? You can use those for more polite situations. Both of them are totally correct. Both of them are fine to use in most everyday situations, so it's up to you to decide how polite you want to sound. Okay, example sentence. Can you help me move this sofa? I may, might. I may, might. Okay, may and might. This presents another very, very common question. When you want to talk about your own plans, as in this example sentence with I may, blah, 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 or I might, blah, 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 we have the same feeling, yes. They both express something we're not sure about, an upcoming plan that we're not sure about. But in American English today, might tends to be more commonly used in everyday conversation. May tends to sound a little bit more polite, a little bit more formal. When we're talking with our friends, we say, I might go to the beach this weekend, or I might go to a party. To make it negative, we say, I might not do that, or I might not go to dinner after all. I feel kind of sick. So might tends to be used more in everyday conversation. Again, just as with can and could, may and might are both completely correct. They're both fine to use. It's just up to you to choose how polite you want to sound. Okay, examples. I might take a day off next week. What should I? What should I? Okay, this one focuses on the word should. We use should to ask for advice and to give advice generally. So we tend to use this word in kind of close situations. You're asking somebody for help maybe, you're asking for someone's opinion. So you can say, what should I do if you are having trouble in an everyday life situation? Or you can use this to make a more complex sentence, like, what should I get for dinner tonight? Like to ask for someone's opinion. Or maybe you can change as well the I to something else, to another person. What should he do? Or what should she do? Or what should they do? You can change that I in the sentence to ask about someone's opinion regarding a third person, regarding another party. So this is a very basic sentence. Yes, what should I, this pattern, but you can change it with these very, very simple, small things to ask about others outside yourself. Another example. What should I make for dinner? I think you should. I think you should. Okay, so here again, we're seeing should used. In this case, we're seeing I think you should. So that means we are seeing an advice pattern being presented here. This is something you can use to kind of softly and maybe a little politely express your opinion about something. In this case, I think you should is followed by a verb. I think you should verb. I think you should go. I think you should quit. I think you should stop eating so much junk food. You're giving some kind of advice to the listener. You can make this less polite by dropping I think. So you make the sentence, you should blah. You should do this. You should do that. That will make the sentence less polite. Including I think at the beginning of it makes it sound a little bit softer. So it sounds a bit nicer, a little bit kinder. Examples. I think you should start exercising. Shall we? Shall we? Okay, shall we? This is another very common question. Lots of people like to ask about the difference between shall we and will we. They are very different. You cannot use them interchangeably. Shall we is a polite way to suggest you do something. Maybe you've seen this in a romantic movie like Shall We Dance? Or Shall We Go for a Drink? Something like that. It sounds kind of polite, a little bit nice to say shall we instead of do you want to? They have the same meaning though, but shall we sounds a little bit more formal. So shall we and will we are sometimes confused by learners. Will we is quite different. Will we is asking a question about a future plan, like, will we have to pay for this later? Or will we be in time for the movie? Shall we is like suggesting you do something with another person. Will we is saying something like, oh my gosh, I'm not sure about this future plan that we have together. Is it true? Is it going to happen? That's the difference between the two. Oh, another point about this. We tend to use shall we or shall I. We don't really use shall he or shall she so often. We tend to use it for our own activities. That's why you'll see shall we or shall I used more. This is also true for an expression like shall you. You don't see that. Shall is used together with some other person. Example, shall we visit your parents for Christmas? If I would. If I would. This is a very common pattern. If I something, I would. A lot of people like to use this in an expression like if I were you, I would. So they like to ask, should I use were? Should I use was in a pattern like if I were you or if I was you? The correct answer is if I were you, I would. We use was in a pattern like if I was something, something, something to talk about a possible past situation. When you want to talk about something that is not true now, so an unreal situation now, like being you, which is not true, not possible, use were. If I were you. It's not possible, so please use were in that case. You can, of course, use this in other situations. If I something, I would. For example, if I lost my job, I would find a new one. Or if I won the lottery, I would buy a house. So you can use verbs in this pattern as well. Just keep in mind the verb form that you use. If I won the lottery, or if I ate a big dinner, we're using simple past tense in this verb form. So please make sure not to use like simple present tense or don't use an ing verb form here. If I, simple past tense, I would, blah, blah, blah. For example, if I had a bigger house, I would have dinner parties. So final point here, remember when you use this pattern to express something that is not true, not real, like in my example sentence, if I won the lottery, I would buy a house, make sure you're using the correct verb form after would too. If I won the lottery, past tense verb, I would buy a house. The verb in the main clause is in the infinitive form. So make sure that your verbs match. This is a good one to study grammar with. Okay, onward. You must not. You must not. Okay, here we see a rule. Must is commonly used to express rules. We don't use must so much in everyday conversation because it tends to sound quite strong. You will, however, see must used in official rules, like if you're traveling, you're going to like the airport, maybe you are seeing some rules on a sign somewhere, or you're seeing, I don't know, maybe you're reading a contract, something official. That's where you tend to see must used. We use must in everyday conversation for super, super strong things, like you must do this or you must not do that. Maybe your doctor gives you some advice, for example. So in general, you don't see this in everyday conversation so much, but you should know when it means that you should take something seriously, like in an official rule, like you must not smoke in this area, or you must stop eating junk food, or you're going to get very, very unhealthy, or you must not forget your mother's birthday. That's actually very true. That's a very strong situation. You must not forget your mother's birthday.
You must not disappoint your mother.
You must not disappoint your mother. Exactly, exactly. So these are all very, very important and strong things that we need to communicate. We do that with must. You can also, of course, change your subject to he or she or they as well, so that you're not just talking to you, the listener or the reader, but you can use it to express something another person must or must not do. Example, Passengers must show their passports to immigration officers. This must not be. This must not be. Okay, this use of must sometimes is a bit challenging. The key with this use of must is the use of must with be. So when we use must and be together, we're talking about a possible condition or a possible state. In this example, we see it in the negative. This must not be something, something, something. So we use this in a situation like, for example, you're looking for a place. You're using the GPS on your phone, and you come to this place, and you think, this seems correct, but the restaurant I'm looking for is not here. We might say, this must not be the right place. That means this is probably not the right place, or this expression describes a very high chance that something is not true in the negative. When we use it in the positive, for example, oh, this must be the right place. I found the restaurant. It means there's a high possibility I am correct. So this use of must is when we use it with be. To make the negative must not be. To make the positive, this must be. So you can use it to talk about places. You can also use it to talk about conditions. So for example, like when you look at answers on a test, you might think to yourself, this must be the correct answer, or this must be correct. You can use both a noun and an adjective after this to express that high or low condition of something being true. Example, this must not be the right place. It's closed. That can't be. That can't be. Okay, that can't be. This is the reduced form of that cannot be. This means it's impossible. So some condition or some state is impossible. This is different from must not be because must not be expresses that there's a very, very low chance that something is true. That can't be expresses that something is completely impossible. There is 0% chance that something is true. So for example, if I think I see my coworker at the coffee shop, but I know my coworker is at the office, I might think to myself, that can't be Risa. She's at the office today. Maybe she looks just like my coworker, but I know it's not possible. I express that with can't be. This is quite different from that must not be because must not be expresses there's still a little bit of a chance that that is true. Can't be expresses that it is completely impossible. Interestingly, we don't really use this in the positive form much. We don't say this can be correct. We tend to say this could be correct. We don't really use this can be pattern. So if you want to express something is impossible, completely impossible, use this can't be. Also, couldn't be is acceptable here. But when you want to express that something is just possible, use could be, not can be. Interesting point. Okay, example. That can't be the right file. The data is totally different. We shouldn't. We shouldn't. Okay, so here we're using should again, this time in the negative. Shouldn't is the reduced form. Should not becomes shouldn't. In this case, we're using it with the subject we, meaning something you and I together should not do. So again, this is an advice pattern. We should not do something. Of course, you can make this positive by simply removing not after should. We should, blah, blah, blah. So we shouldn't steal. We shouldn't disrespect our mothers. We shouldn't forget our mother's birthdays, right? This is the important point from today's lesson, I think. We shouldn't. So when you want to express something that's not a good idea, something that you don't think you as a group should do, you can express that with we shouldn't verb. In this case, also, please remember you follow the verb with the infinitive form. We shouldn't do something. We shouldn't eat. We shouldn't talk. We shouldn't forget. So don't use like an ing form. Don't use a past tense form here. Please follow should, this use of should, the advice form, with the simple infinitive form. Example. We shouldn't think too much about this. All right, that is everything for this episode. That was 10 modal verb patterns that you can use. What did you think? You can let us know in the comments. Also, don't forget to click the link in the description to get free PDF cheat sheets and learn even more useful English words and phrases. You can download them to your mobile device. You can put them on your computer, print them out, whatever. They're yours to use, so you can click the link and get them for free. Pretty cool. All right, that is everything for this episode. Thanks very much for watching, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Great work! Here's a reward. Speed up your language learning with our PDF lessons. Get all of our best PDF cheat sheets and ebooks for free. Just click the link in the description.